Jay here, and in this video I'm going to talk about my Chaos Helot Cultist gang. I'll go over why I built this gang, what models I used, the reasons I took the models I did, what weapons and war gear they have, and the credits cost. I'll also talk about tactics cards and how we're using them in the current campaign. This time on JD in the Sump Sea. Thanks for tuning into this episode. This is the first in a series of videos I want to make detailing the different gangs that I have. These videos are intended as examples of ways to build gangs, and aren't necessarily advice on how to build Necromunda gangs. I just want to share how I built my gangs and hopefully give you some inspiration for your own. So I built this gang probably 3 or 4 years ago. I made this gang using models from the Dark Vengeance box set for Warhammer 40,000. When I built this gang, the rules for it were still relatively new, and I've played Chaos since the 90s, so I figured, why not? So let's start off with the gangers, and then move on to the champions, and then the leader himself, Varric the Vile. So the first two gangers are Aduras and Krax. Aduras is armed with a flail and an auto pistol. The flail is a nice weapon because it gives +1 to hit in close combat and has the Entangle special rule. Entangle means the weapon can't be parried, and if you hit an enemy on a natural 6, the enemy then has a -2 to hit you back. It's a nice melee weapon that doesn't break the bank. The auto pistol has rapid fire 1, which allows the fighter for only 65 credits to possibly hit an enemy in close combat up to 5 times. Krax has a reclaimed autogun and a respirator. The reclaimed autogun is like a regular autogun, but it's 5 credits cheaper and has a 5+ ammo check instead of a 4+. I feel for Chaos Cultists, having slightly worse weapons for less points makes sense. This respirator is simply there because I figured the model had one already. Next up is Clank and Zax. Clank has a club and an auto pistol. Again, the auto pistol is nice because you can get up to 3 hits with it, either at range by shooting or by using it in close combat. The club has damage too, making it a threat if he actually wounds the enemy. Zax has a reclaimed autogun just like Krax did, but no respirator this time. When I make gangs, I like to have each fighter have unique war gear and or weapons. It's easy to tell them apart in the battlefield that way, and I don't have to write names on their bases, which breaks immersion for me, or write notes on their fighter cards denoting what they look like. Loon and Sax are up next. Loon has a maul, which is exactly the same as a club, an auto pistol, and an incendiary charge. The incendiary charge is the tube on his back. I like these models because you can always add more war gear to them as the campaign progresses, as they all have pouches and thingies hanging on them, which can arguably either count as something or count as nothing. It's up to you. The incendiary charge is a large blast of 5 inches, which is huge, and it can hit multiple enemy models potentially. It also has blaze, so with a perfectly timed and placed throw, this guy can incapacitate a large segment of your opponent's gang for not a lot of credit investment. Sax has an auto pistol and a fighting knife. The fighting knife is just a nice close combo weapon almost anyone in the game can get. It's not too expensive and is fine in close combat. If you actually hit somebody from behind, the backstab gets you +1 strength. I like to try and use him to charge into the back of an enemy who is already in combat with one of my other gangers. Now we're on to the Disciples, also known as Champions. Calderon has a heavy stubber and flak armor and infiltrate. Resurrax has a flamer, flak armor, and infiltrate. These guys finally have some armor. None of the regular gangers have armor, and that's so I could have as many as possible. These guys will hopefully be a little bit more survivable. The infiltrate skill allows them to be placed exactly where I want them before the game begins. I can make sure I get the heavy stubber up to a good spot, and I can guarantee that the flamer will be positioned so we can disrupt the nastiest enemy or block a corridor every game. Finally, on to my leader, Varric the Vile. He has a sword, an auto pistol, and shotgun with solid and scatter rounds. He has flak armor and infiltrate like the champions. He also has his trusty Chaos Doggo familiar. The sword is a decent close combat weapon. He'll hit on 2s with it. It has a -1 AP, so he can hopefully get through some armor, and he can parry other regular close combat weapons. His shotgun is a decent ranged weapon. Solid ammo is 16 inches, strength 4 and 2 damage, so he can take on other tougher opponents. And the scatter rounds are good for lower toughness enemies because the scatter shot rule means d6 wound rolls instead of only 1. The familiar is not a combat machine like some pets are in Necromunda, but it does protect its owner. The Omen of Fortune rule means that Varric can ignore a hit from an opposing ganger once per turn with a past willpower test. The Precognition allows the familiar to dodge attacks with a 3+ save. If the familiar's owner is a Psyker, then that Psyker can reroll a failed willpower test once per turn because of its Psychic Manifestation rule. It can also clamber, meaning it always counts climbing as using a ladder. I just want to discuss a few other things when it comes to Chaos Helot gangs. The leader and champions have the inured to insanity rule, which means they can't become subject to the insane condition. This can be used to your advantage against other Chaos gangs, or if you buy Mind Deflect shards or shard grenades, both of which are 5-inch blast template grenades, you could throw them at enemies that are really close to you and not worry about getting hit by them and becoming insane from a bad scatter roll. They also don't need to worry about Whispers from the Warp, the most common result on a Perils of the Warp table roll. The Helot cultists are 5 credits more than a Hive Scum, but they get a 3+ initiative. It's a very big deal because you can be more aggressive with them. The better initiative means that they can more easily leap larger gaps and also not fall off platforms as easily as most other gangers. The other advantage Chaos Helot cultists have is the ability for one of them to start the game with a special weapon. As you add cultists to your gang during a campaign, you can add more cultists with special weapons. This allows you to have a cultist with either a flamer, a grenade launcher, or a long rifle at gang creation, in addition to the special or heavy weapons that your disciples can have. If I were to build another Chaos Helot gang, I would add not only a cultist with a special weapon to start the campaign, but reviewing the Chaos Familiar rules, I would add a Cult Witch also. The inured to insanity on a Psyker combined with the reroll to willpower that the Familiar provides would give the Witch a distinct advantage when casting spells that most Psykers don't have. This is a starting gang and it has 9 fighters. It's a very good number to begin a campaign with because it means that you would need to lose 4 gangers before you could possibly fail a bottle test, and then you would only fail the test on a 6. I always consider the size of the gang when I build a new gang, and I always want to have at least 8 gangers at gang creation. The total credits of this gang at creation is 975, leaving 25 extra, which could be used for a trip to the dock or could be used to buy new equipment after the first battle. I like to start a campaign with some extra cash, just in case. In the campaign I am playing in now, we build a deck of 12 tactics cards, and each battle we pick 2 of them for that battle, ignoring the tactics cards rules that the specific scenario uses. Once a card is used, it's removed from the deck until all cards are used. Then the deck is refreshed and all the cards are returned to it. If the card isn't used during the battle, it goes back into the deck. I chose some sneaky tactics cards and some that I thought would come in handy during a game. Some of these cards are White Dwarf exclusives, and if you've seen my video about Necromunda and White Dwarf, linked in the description below, then you'll know that I love to collect White Dwarf issues that have Necromunda things in them. A Present for You is from December 2019, A Swig of Wild Snake is from November 2021, and Ancient Vox Box is from the November 2020 issue of White Dwarf magazine. The A Present for You card is a card where you place a 3-inch template over an enemy fighter when they activate, and then it scatters d6 inches, and anyone it hits is then subject to a random condition. It's either concussion, flash, or fear and gas. A Swig of Wild Snake has you place the flamer template coming out of one of your fighters, and anyone touched by it is now drunk. They can then be automatically set on fire without making a roll if hit by a weapon that causes blaze. The Ancient Vox Box is probably the funniest because it is basically an organ grinder box that has a random effect when you use it, and they aren't very impactful, so it's just funny to play it and see the look of bewilderment on your opponent's face. Beast Lure, Melt-A-Trap, Frag Trap, and Click are just gotcha cards. Blackout is nice if you want to play in pitch black conditions, like if you're playing against a ridiculously good shooting gang, for example. Adrenaline Surge and Thundering Charge are good for guaranteeing you get the charge off. Adrenaline Surge gives a fighter of yours an extra action, and Thundering Charge doubles the fighter's movement once per game, instead of adding d3 inches to the charge roll. Secret Cache is nice if you want to reload a weapon that has maybe a bad ammo check, or by creating an ammo cache anywhere on the battlefield that you want. Burst of Courage is great because you auto-pass a cool check, which if you are bottled and need your leader to stick around, this is the card you want to have. You pass the cool check automatically, then everyone else around the leader also passes automatically, so no one would run off the board. I think tactics cards add an extra degree of customizability to a gang, especially when you get to choose which cards you have access to and which cards you get to use each game, as this system and this campaign allows. The new rulebook also finally gives several ways to use tactics cards, and has generic tactics in the book. There's now no need to actually buy cards, you can just use the tactics lists included in the books. Well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed my rundown of my Chaos Helot cult starter gang. I intend to do a video like this for each of my gangs, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.